Hey everyone, it is good to be back with you again on another Thursday. Beautiful day outside. I'm going to close my window just so that there is no noise coming in from outside. We will get started here in just a moment. I'm going to give people a chance to jump in if they want to, and then we will get started. Before we get going, I'm going to attach a link real quick to the comments section, if I can find it. Oops. Now you're hearing me echo probably through my own computer. All right, so I'm hoping, there we go, popped up. All right, well, we'll go ahead and start, and if people join us late, that's fine too. All these videos that we do can always be viewed later on our Facebook page or YouTube channel. So I want to start out by saying that I hope that this past week, you were able to spend some time praying through that servant prayer that we talked about last week. Servant prayer is a really tangible action step for us to spiritually dismantle our pride. And I honestly can't think of anything better than working to spiritually dismantle our pride in the current culture that we're living in, as we gain humility through that practice. I think humility is something we should all be searching for right now, and what a witness humility could be in the divisive world that we live in. So, like I just mentioned, I attached a Google Doc, a shared Google Doc to the comment section. It's the same one I attach every week, and I do that as a resource for you because I know that hearing instructions about something and being able to reference them later on is two different things. So I'm hoping that you will be able to use that this week as you engage in this new type of prayer that we're going to be talking about. If you're just joining us for the first time or it's been a while, we are working our way week by week through the book called A Guidebook to Prayer by Dr. Mary Kate Morse. And she was one of my seminary professors. She was someone who was instrumental in helping me develop a rich prayer life. So I just wanted to share a lot of the stuff that I have learned from her with you. And one of the quotes that we're sort of basing this on, and this whole idea that there are many different ways to pray, is from a quote in the very first introduction chapter of the book. And I'm going to paraphrase that quote, and I say it every week, but I want to ingrain this idea that there are many different ways that we can pray. None are necessarily better than any of the others. They are simply different. Prayer is like avenues into a city, and God is the city. So some avenues may be freeways and roads, some may look like hiking and biking trails, but no matter what route we take, we are drawing nearer and closer into the center of the city, and as a result, we're drawing nearer and closer to the heart of God. So today, we are jumping into chapter 11 of this book, which discusses one of my favorites, simplicity prayer. And I will warn you, I'm going to be quoting quite a bit from this chapter because honestly, it's, like I said, it's one of my favorites. And I think that living a life of simplicity is one of the most tangible ways that we can follow Jesus. Simplicity prayer beckons all of us to lead simple lives that will free us from things like greed, consumerism, and dominance. So, Mary Kate, she begins this chapter by talking about the need for simplicity, especially in our culture, and how its neglect can leave such a negative impact on our world. So she says, our world is rife with divisions and troubling trends. And that was written 7 years ago, and how true that is still today. The divisions and hatred we have always had. The rift between ourselves and our world is growing. We live mostly indoors, requiring huge demands for energy and products in our everyday lives. Our world is paying a price for our consumer requirements with changing weather patterns and disappearing species. These requirements are far detached from the physical world where living things are in balance with air, water, and earth to survive. Jesus came into the world he had created, and to the people he had chosen. During his human lifetime, he was intimately connected to the created world and the Jewish people. When he spoke, he referred to such things as wheat, water, bread, planting, sheep, fish, trees, and fruit. Wherever he went, he intimately engaged with the crowds around him, teaching, blessing, and healing. He came to be our peace in his flesh by breaking down the dividing wall and reconciling a hostile and broken world to his perfect self. So one of the most impactful things that I learned while I was in seminary was the concept of learning to live in place instead of above place. And I'm going to break that down. So living above place means that you are generally blissfully unaware of how you impact the world around you. So that means that you generally don't know where your food comes from, and coming from Walmart doesn't count. It means you don't know how it got to Walmart. You don't realize how much energy consumption you use and how that's affecting the world around you. Maybe you don't know where your trash goes once the truck comes and picks it up from your house. And different things like that. But to live in place is to sit with and to know how much you are actually leaving your own footprint in this world. Living in place is to know and to understand how much of an impact you have. And so I truly believe that one of the best action steps we can take as Jesus' followers is to learn how to live in place. Because when we live in place and we realize, how much of an impact we actually have, it compels us to leave less of a footprint behind, to take less, to waste less. Mary Kay continues on to describe Jesus' model of reconciliation and how this all factors in with reconciliation to the world and to others. She says Jesus' act of reconciliation impacts individuals, nature, and communities. The purpose was to bring back to its natural order and harmony things that had been divided through sin and hostility. Because of this great gift, our responsibility is to teach and proclaim the message of reconciliation. Preaching the message means living the message in ourselves and with our world. Life in this new creation illustrates God's activity in the world and hints at the final cosmic renewal. Reconciliation to others is our fundamental calling, and it will be addressed in the chapter of forgiveness later on. In this chapter, we focus on reconciliation with our environments, the places around us. She quotes Randy Woodley, who is a Cherokee scholar and was also a professor at the seminary that I attended. And he writes, "As a people of faith, we should view every drop of oil, every diamond, every lump of coal, and every source of water with a theological eye. We should try seeing our world through the eyes of the one who created it. All the earth is sacred. It seems quite foolish that only after we have gone too far will we realize that no amount of capital gains, no particular economic system, or no modern convenience will be worth the price that we will be forced to pay. I sometimes wonder if modern humanity will drive itself to extinction over greed." Those are powerful words, and they're tough to sit with. As God's people and as Christians, I really do think we need to take a careful account of how we live, how we treat this planet, and how we treat others. Because when we treat the planet well, we, in effect, treat others well. We are creating a better world for others to live in. And this begs the question, are there things we are willing to give up, to sacrifice, in order to make this world a better place, to live more simply? After all, the one we follow lived a sacrificial life and is calling us to do the same, to give up some of life's luxuries for the benefit of others. Mary Kate continues to describe how consumerism leads us into a spiritual death. Excuse me. She says, shopping is the great pastime of industrialized nations. We equate our right to shop with our right to freedom. All advertising implies that if you purchased a particular product, you would be happier and have fewer troubles. Many studies do demonstrate that there is a bond between wealth and happiness. However, the bond completely disappears after a certain level of economic development in a country. The United States passed the mark years ago. Consumerism is the compulsion to buy more. The issue for us as people of faith is the destructiveness of constant spending and accumulation on our identities and on our world. Stuff is our modern day idol. The desire for stuff can separate us from God, and ballooning consumption is slowly destroying our world. Simplicity is a lifestyle of constant reconciliation with ourselves, the poor, and the land. Our relationship to earth and resources mimics our trust and faith in God. When we clutter, hoard, shop too much, or worry about our houses and lives, we are taking responsibility for them. God told the Israelites that they were strangers in the land. They were to always remember that the world and all its goodness was God's. They were also always to remember that their purpose was to be as God's ambassadors and reconcilers in the world. So as you are thinking through simplicity this week, as you are praying these prayers, as you are being mindful and asking the Spirit to guide you, a good place to start is to take account of where, when, and how you are a consumer. Asking questions like, do I really need that thing? Will that thing actually make my life better? Could my time, money, and resources be better used to bless someone or something else? And even, and this one's hard, is that thing being created unethically? Mary Kate says that simplicity prayer unites us to God's heart and helps us to let go. It is a reminder of our call to be ambassadors of reconciliation. We sometimes reduce our ambassadorship to telling others the good news. Telling is vitally important, but the power of telling comes from a deep connection with the heart and the purpose of God. Much of our busyness comes out of our pursuit of success. Through the simplicity prayer, we are reminded of Christ's sacrificial gift of reconciliation and our responsibility as ambassadors. Through simplicity prayer, we listen for Jesus' direction. We receive his courage and perspective. The simplicity prayer also involves an action of reconciliation, which is often sacrificial. Instead of buying another cup of coffee out, maybe we prepare coffee at home and use the grounds to fertilize our plants. Instead of shopping, we spend time volunteering in a local community garden. Instead of driving, we walk to the neighborhood grocery store. Instead of watching TV, we clean out a closet and give the unused clothes to Goodwill. In prayer, we ask Jesus to see the world as he sees it and to be faithful stewards of its care. So, simplicity prayer. Here's what we're going to do this week if you choose to engage with us. And again, all of this information that I'm about to talk about is on the Google Doc on the comment section of this page, so you can reference it all throughout the week. Maybe just copy and paste that into a note in your phone, and you'll be able to look at it every week. But it is very simple, which is great, and it is this. So we will pray the prayer of simplicity, which is just a couple sentences, and it goes like this: Lord Jesus, in you we are a new creation. Everything old has passed away. See, everything has become new. Teach us the ministry of reconciliation. Give us courage and wisdom as your ambassadors, that your kingdom come and your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So we pray that prayer. Then we take a piece of paper or a journal to make a list of what creates clutter in our lives and the difficulty for living a simpler life. So what stands in your way from living a life of simplicity? Then we will move into a period of silence, imagining that we are sitting with Jesus and listening to how he might guide us concerning those lists. Where is Jesus leading you? Where is he calling you? What is he calling you to sacrifice? And after 10 or so minutes of silence, choose something to do to begin simplifying your life. Before you do it, whether it's getting rid of clutter or not buying something that you usually buy, pray this prayer. And this is from Galatians 5:1. For freedom Christ has set me free. Stand firm, therefore, and do not submit again to a yoke of slavery. Pray this prayer each time to create a place of prayerfulness around these acts of reconciliation. So consider doing this prayer, maybe several times, 2 or 3 times this week, and or maybe once a month for a few months. Make simplicity a regular practice in your life, because it calls us back from that consumerism that leads us to a spiritual death. So, before I hop off, I always want to make sure to give space in case there are any questions. And if there are any questions, feel free to type those out in the comment section. And you can type them out later even, and I'll come back and check this and do my best to answer. Or you can reach out to me personally through email or messenger or however is easiest for you. But I will say that my hope and prayer is that simplicity, the call for simplicity, would lead to change in your life. And not necessarily for your benefit, but for the benefit of those around you. For your benefit too, but also for the benefit of those around you. Because others will benefit when we consume less, when we hoard less, when we take less. That means there's more for people who have less. And I think that is the heart that we need to approach this type of prayer with. God, how can I use less so that people with less can have more? Let that be our prayer this week. All right, everyone, it has been good to be with you. I look forward to being with you next Thursday around 2 p.m. here on Facebook Live. We'll see you then.